And we are live. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, remote April 2017. This is demo day. Cool. So for those of you who don't know, Makers Academy is an intensive 12-week course during which these 17 people have been crazily trying to learn all of the skills and behaviors that they need to become really, really great developers. This has been really quite an exceptional cohort, and I'm really quite happy and sad that it's come to the end. We've had some late night violin sessions. Learning to code via music has been a particular highlight. This is a cohort who likes to take time out from coding to go surfing, freshen their mind up with buddying up and getting together for meditation sessions early in the morning. And I can honestly say I think that this has been one of the most emotionally intelligent, intellectually intelligent, overall intelligent groups that we've had come through Makers. And I'm going to be really, really sad to see them go, whilst at the same time super excited to see them get all their wonderful jobs, which I'm sure the gongs will be ringing soon for these people. So we are going to have 4 presentations from 4 different project groups. Each presentation is going to be around about 8 minutes. So I think it's quite likely that we'll be done by about 20 to 5. On-site graduation will be happening directly afterwards. So if you are heading down to Makers Academy, the offices on Commercial Street, that will be starting at 5 o'clock. Everybody is welcome. So let's get started, shall we? The first group, rather aptly named, we have In Search of Happiness. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Dan. So there should be a screen share with In Search of the Happiness present. Just going to maximize this. Okay, In Search of Happiness. Coming to the project, and with 2 weeks to immerse ourselves in a range of possibilities, we decided to address a problem we all felt that we were facing at the time. How would we seek out the companies that will play such a significant part of our post-Makers experience? The purpose of what we identified was helping developers find great companies to work for. So what was the problem? We recognized 3 issues relating to the problem. Discovering new companies is hard. Companies are often removed from the remote program that we were working on. So approaching people on a face-to-face basis and talking to them was something we didn't have as much of an opportunity as we may have been able to seek out before. The job sites that we were looking at opportunities on were somewhat alienating and perhaps gave us less information about the type of culture we may expect at a prospective workplace. And that many of the jobs are word of mouth and not advertised on sites. So we didn't quite feel like we had our ear to the ground.
Yeah, so we took like pretty much a day or a day and a half to really like hone down on what exact problem we wanted to solve and really like clearly identify that. And once we had that, we had to start moving forward in terms of thinking about how we were going to build the product. And one of the things we used was mapping out what our ideal customer journey would be. So that's kind of the first, what do they want to do when they enter a site, to like the end goal. And that really helped us like get an idea of what our minimum viable product would be. And that being kind of the simplest thing that we could really build in order to provide value or solve that problem. And so we kind of sketched out this wireframe, which is basically a list of companies with some stats, a chart about company values, and some links to further information. So yeah, within a week, we had kind of achieved that in part, and we're really happy with, and that's basically our MVP. And I think we are using lots of new technologies, which Alex will talk about later, which kind of made us a bit slow to get started. But yeah, we are really proud of that to have achieved by the end of the week. And yeah, now you can have a look at our final product, which is a little video. So yeah, bear with us.
So here we have in Search for Happiness, and hopefully the first thing you noticed is we have a colourful and animated navigation menu. It was really important to us to make the site enjoyable to use because most sites and job seekers usually aren't. We've separated companies by industry sector, which we thought might help give people ideas about sectors who maybe hadn't necessarily considered hire software developers. And if you click on a sector bubble, it will load a list of companies who work in the area.
So here they are, the companies displayed by the industry we selected. On the left-hand side, we have their logos, the company name, and the overall rating. We only display the companies that are rated over 3 stars in Glassdoor website. If we look in our right-hand side of the screen, we have a spider diagram that displays additional information about the respective company. Going at the bottom of the page, we can change our industry, and we will going to have displayed a new section of companies. For example, here we have the information technologies companies.
You can also click on a site logo to be taken to their website. You can hover over the spider diagram for a more precise reading of the data it contains. And finally, you can click on the site title to be taken to the original display.
Something's up with changing screen. Any others?
Go to Google.
No, we're on there already. Okay, we don't seem to be able to change the slide screen. We're just going to refresh the slides.
Perfect. Okay, so this diagram demonstrates the flow of data through our application. So we got our data from Glassdoor, and one option would have been to have our website talk directly to Glassdoor to get that data. We decided against this approach for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it would have made our site slower and it would have made our code more difficult for other developers to read. And secondly, because the data we're displaying simply doesn't update that regularly. So there was no need for the compromises that would have involved. Instead, we pulled the data out of Glassdoor and stored it in our own database. And we set up a very simple server to talk to that database and display our page. We used Express for the server because it was the simplest thing available and we didn't need any bells and whistles. And we used MongoDB for the database because it integrated very well with the rest of our technology. The web page you see is powered also by React, which is a front-end technology which we chose for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it gives a very fluid user experience. But secondly, and more simply, because we wanted to learn something completely new and something that's in demand in the industry, and React seemed like the best possible choice. To display our data, we used Chart.js, and to create our interactive menu, we used D3, which is a powerful scripting library, which allows you to define forces that act on objects on the page, which is what allows you to create the effect you saw when they move around.
All right, I'm gonna reflect on our difficulties that we have in the last 2 weeks. Basically, we were very ambitious about our project design, and for that reason, we encountered some problems even from the first days. We challenged ourselves and implement new technologies that were completely new to us, like React as a front-end technology, and we also use D3 that help us build our charts in our project. Having this in place, we put a large amount of technical depth on our heads, meaning that we had to dive in heavily into online resources, trying to figure out how they would work and how they would interact with each other, because none of us knew these technologies. This being said, we were forced to use new software and JavaScript libraries for future and unit testing, like Jest and Selenium WebDriver, which slowed us for almost 2 days because we were trying to find out how to configure them, and we were trying to get more familiar with their syntax libraries. And besides our struggles, we had our victories as well. Completing the project successfully was achieved in the first place by being a united team and having respect to each other. We learned at Makers Academy that using Agile and implementing XP values are the essential things that a software developer should do. XP stands for Extreme Programming and is a collection of values and principles that helps software developers improve their discipline. Collaboration and clear communication was one of the XP values we use and made our struggles a lot more easier. Having stand-ups every morning made us realize that exactly what we do wrong and what can we do to prevent that mistake from happening again. Exploring new tech was a proof of courage because we could have easily choose more familiar technologies. But we decided to take ourselves to a higher level, and we can be proud to say that we managed to learn and implement new software technologies in just 2 weeks. We are also happy with our decision to invest in refactoring to make our code look better and invest a lot of time making our user interface look much nicer. And for those of you who want to see our work, they can browse to insearchofhappiness.heroku.com and they will see our website there. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We wish you much luck on your journey as a developer.
Thank you. That was team In Search of Happiness, insearchofhappiness.heroku.com. That was really amazing. Thank you. We just have a little bit of a team changeover. As that is happening, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the XP values, which was such a fun at the end of that last demonstration. So the XP values basically are a set of values that software developers can use to make sure that they're producing the best possible code as a team, and make sure that they're working very well as a team. And it really embodies everything that we do in Makers Academy. We work in small iterations. Every cohort has a slightly better curriculum than the cohort previously, and so on. So I'm super proud to see them mentioning it in their presentations. Cool. So next up we have Feeder. That's with a small F. Feeder with a small F. Take it away.
Hey, so we are Team Feeder. That is myself, Sandy, Ben, Christina, John, and Dave. Unfortunately, Dave is not with us today. Dave, if you didn't know already, has already got a job and has gone on holiday. So if you locked in from the beach, Dave, then shout out. So our project was called Feeder. It's kind of originally was called Come Dine With Me, and it's essentially based on the TV program Come Dine With Me. So the idea was it is a web app where you as a host can create a dinner party. So you can set a number of people that are going to come, the sort of theme, the location, and then other users on the platform can decide if they want to attend and sign up to come to your event, and hopefully at the end of it, give you some feedback. And I'll pass over to Ben, who's going to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Andy. One thing we really tried to focus on throughout our time working on this project was XP, or Extreme Programming Values. And XP values are a set of behaviours aimed at creating a work environment where good quality software can be created. And these values are simplicity, communication, feedback, respect, and courage. And one of these that we really focused on was communication. We started each day with a group meeting to ensure each pair knew what the other pairs would be working on. We followed this up with another catch-up around lunchtime, and finally met up again at the end of the day to discuss any problems we may have come across, as well as discussing what went well. Simplicity was also a major focus for us. Before writing any code, we sorted all our features into 2 groups, essential and non-essential, and made sure we'd completed all essential features before we started work on any of the bonus features. This meant we could really focus our time on the core components of the site and didn't get bogged down working on things that, while nice to have, weren't actually necessary. And lastly, we gave each other a regular feedback on our work. The group reviewed all new features soon after they were finished, and any merge conflicts were solved as a group as well. The focus of the feedback was partly to find bugs or any errors, and also to suggest ways that the code could be improved. I'm going to hand over to John now.
Hi everyone, this slide shows the technologies we use in our project, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. So initially we wanted to create an iOS app using the Ruby Motion framework, but when it turned out that not everybody in the team could install it due to an operating system incompatibility, we opted for a web app using Ruby on Rails, meaning that everyone could be involved. It was an early decision that the team was united in making, and it stood us in really good stead for the rest of the project. It was built mobile first, so it's fully responsive to screen size changes. So why did we choose Rails? Well, because we're all familiar with it, and having used it for a few weeks over the course, and we really wanted to showcase what we've learned. The other reason is that our app is a social networking site and is suited to the way Rails works with relational databases, like Postgres, which is the one we used. Other web apps which take advantage of this include Airbnb, Groupon, and GitHub. We used the Google Maps JavaScript API for displaying dynamic maps of the event locations in our app, and the Google Maps Distance Matrix API, together with a gem called Geocoder, which translates addresses into coordinates to get distances from the set user location to an event location. For the testing, we used RSpec and Capybara with Selenium, and we deployed our app to the web using Heroku. And I'm going to pass over to Christina, who's going to demo the app.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. This is Christina, and welcome to Feeder. So, as we can see, we have just signed up successfully to Feeder, and we've been taken to the events page, which displays all the events that have been posted by other users. We can now either add our own event or have a look at the event's preview. So let's have a look at the first one. The preview displays some basic information about the event, date, time, where, but there's also a message saying create a profile to see how far you are from this event. So the current user has just signed up to Feeder, hasn't created a profile yet, and we're just going to create a short profile to give a demonstration of what's going to happen next. So if we fill in our fields correctly, we'll be then redirected to my profile page, by means of which we can visualize a profile. Then clicking back onto return to events will, boom, yes, it's updated the distance. So the distance between the user location and the event is now displayed, and also the distances from other events have been correctly updated. So now let's pick an event and let's view it. By clicking on View Event, we'll have a page which displays further details about the event. For example, the name of host, start and time, the location. And if we're interested and want to attend, then all we have to do is to click on the I'm going button, and the counters for the people going and the places left will be updated real time. Beneath the counters, we also have a list showing the names of the users who are attending the event. And if those users have a profile attached to their account, then if clicking on their name will be enable us to see their profile. What if an event is full? Let's have a look. So we won't have the I'm going button and the counters this time, but instead a message which will say, hey, full house, find another event to attend here, which will redirect the user back to the events page. Last but not least, we included an About link, which redirects to our GitHub repository page. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass over to Sandy for the final considerations.
Cool, thanks, Christina. So some of the struggles and successes from our project Fortnite. So one feature we wanted to get implemented was the rating and donation feature. So at the end of an event, as someone who's attended the event, you could rate the host and potentially give them a donation on depending on how good you thought their food was. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get that rolled out. Initially, we planned to use a sort of external code library that someone else had already written that we could sort of adopt and kind of tailor to our own use case. Unfortunately, what we realized about kind of maybe half a day in is that that code library was no longer supported in the latest version of Rails that we were using. So we had to abandon that plan. We tried to then sort of build it ourselves, but couldn't quite regroup and only got it about 90% finished in the end. So obviously, as people with very high standards of what we roll out, we decided that it was better not to include it than to put something that didn't meet our standards in. One thing we did do quite well early on was estimating how long our sort of very, very basic requirements were going to take. So John did a really good job of saying early on that in the first 3 or 4 days, we wanted to get a basic version of our app up and running. So we had to be quite strict about what was an absolute necessity for our basic application. and what was a kind of a nice to have. So after about 3 or 4 days, we had a kind of working basic app up and running, which gave us a lot of confidence for the rest of the project, knowing that we had something we could always fall back on. So that was something that worked really, really well. And lastly, final thoughts. Just want to say thank you to everyone. I think I can hopefully speak on behalf of the group and say we've all paired with everyone here. It's been a fantastic 12 weeks. It's definitely been some tough times. And thank everyone for being patient and pushing us to be better developers than we were yesterday. And last but not least, massive thanks to Dan. It's been an amazing 3 months. I'm super happy with what we've learned in 3 months, and I hope everyone else is as well. It's been the right balance of challenging and fun at the same time. And it's definitely seemed a lot shorter than 12 weeks, which I think is a good thing. So thanks very much from all of us. And thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Team Feeder. So again, we're just going to have a little bit of a change around in the Hangout. Whilst that is in progress, I just want to remind you that the apps that you're seeing today have been written in just 2 weeks. Yeah, very impressive list of features that have been added in there. So it looks like we are ready to go now. So we have Team Naked Makers. Take it away.
Hello everyone, I am Anna, and together with Sophie, Rob and Adam, we are Naked Makers team. So what you'll hear from us is not the usual demo day presentation. It is our story about failure and how we want to help you avoid it in the future. So in what we intended to build was a community tool aiming at showing interesting information about Makers Academy Alumni Network. Basically, we wanted to see where they end up as locations, what language do they program in, what salaries they have, and so on. So this was our basic intention and the problem we aimed of solving. In terms of technologies, we did this using Ruby on Rails with D3 for visualization, tested with RSpec and Capybara, and actually we did have some successes with this, like continuous Travis integration and Heroku hosting, even if what we can show you graphically is not impressive. So we clearly had many struggles in our project, and primarily it has come down to sharing a vision and basically being able to communicate that vision about what we want to do. So what you see now in this slide is, it may look like various versions of bubbles, but it's actually just various interpretation of what a location can be. It can be a map, it can be locations comprising different languages, people programming, and various styles. So basically, once we decided we want a visualization, we didn't quite realize how many interpretations this can have. So you can even reach a black hole, which is sort of symbolic for how our project went. But we did learn a lot in the process, and I'll give the floor to Rob to tell you more about that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anna. There are obviously many lessons that we've learned through a process of struggling in this way for the last 2 weeks. And as Anna mentioned, as 4 ambitious people, it's certainly not a position we wanted to be in. So we want to share with you the things that you might take away, such that you can spot the flags that it might happen. So the first one is specificity is everything. As Anna mentioned about the word visualization, we were not specific enough about that visualization from the outset. Do not overlook it. Please don't overlook it. We did, and it caused mayhem, and it caused mayhem down the line. It took a while for us to realize that that might have been the cause. This feeds in to our second lesson. Our second lesson is that you can't see through skulls. Without specificity, there are many interpretations, and the more people, the more interpretations you get. When we thought visualization, it appears that many of us we all had very different views as to what that might have been, and they were not clarified. They were not specified early on. If you see this occur, spot it, resolve it as a priority, and it will pay dividends down the line, as opposed to noticing it later, where you have to dig back through. And again, this leads to our third lesson. Our third lesson is about the process of developing software. You've heard from many of the other groups who've very successfully achieved this, about using a process by which you write clear stories and clear actionable tickets. We use the product called Trello, and a red flag that I would suggest you really strongly watch for is if your board of tickets, of jobs to do, is either sparse or is poorly populated. Ours, retrospectively, certainly was. With that as well, when coding, we write tests first. We aim to do this such that we know if something breaks and we can look to fix that. We have a story about how our code works, and it future-proofs it for future developers, if written correctly. With spiked code written without tests, edging into your work, it should be a smell, it should be an indicator that there's something wrong. Look for that. And so on the flip side, things that you should do, write very well-defined tickets or actionable jobs. Ensure that you know, or that it's clearly written, that you know when it's complete. And that, along with testing first, should help insulate you from these sort of occurrences. And again, this feeds into our next lesson. If you're going to test first, consider how you're going to test drive. Don't imagine it'll work itself out. We decided, well, we didn't consider which direction to test drive in, either to write tests from our server outwards or from our unspecified or poorly specified visualization. And that conflict created incredibly deep problems deeply in the course, not in the first couple of days, within a week. So consider what direction you're going to test in, ask the question, why are you going to do it in that direction, and the purpose for it. And that should give you the direction you need to formulate a successful project. The last lesson, beware of silence. Clearly, we had significant communication issues. It was not all bad, and Sophie will definitely take you through our successes. We talked an enormous amount. According to our XP values, we had stand-ups every day, and we had retros, and we really did give everything, but there were profound silences, and that silence is consuming. And if you're sat in silence, there is absolutely something wrong. It means that you're not saying what you're feeling, and it means you're not saying what you're thinking, and it opens up a chasm into which more problems pour. Watch for it and solve it earlier rather than later. Okay. I would like to now pass on to Sophie, who's going to talk about our successes. So thanks, Sophie.
Hi, sorry. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult talking about your successes when you don't really have the same kind of successes that maybe some of the other teams have. Like, we don't really have a completed product that we're all really eager to share with you today. But we still had successes, namely in the lessons that we've learned. Like, ultimately, this is a story about people. It was a lesson on introspection, about learning with different people's communication styles, recognizing when we needed to ask for help. We were lucky that we had that available, although it might not have saved the project at the moment. Like, I'm sure we all wish that it could have gone better. Like, 4 bright and driven people don't wish for failure. So we could all be really angry and frustrated and live with regret, but that's not going to change anything. That's not going to make you a better person. So this is really about being agile. Like, projects fail all the time, teams fail, but you pick yourself up, you learn from it, and you go on to build better things. I know I speak for myself and at least another couple of members of the team when I say, like, I am more driven now than ever to go on and have success. So there you are. I hope you don't mind us sharing this story with you today. We are the naked makers, bearing all. And this is a blob.
Oh my God, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I think you ask any developer, they are built on failures, and the thing that makes a great developer is somebody who learns from their failure and somebody who owns it. And I think it was incredibly brave, and I'm like really feeling it in my heart watching you talk. So yeah, well done, guys, and thank you so much. Cool. Following on from that, finally we have Be Happy. Take it away, guys.
Hello everyone, we are Team Be Happy. We've got Jess here, who used to be a photographer and once photographed Father Christmas at Hamley's. We've got Miles, who is a geophysicist, and a few months ago, just before starting Makers, he was a stunt car driver in an independent film. We've got me, I'm a violinist, and I've recorded film soundtracks at Abbey Road. And we've got Simon, who was an interior designer and has also been featured on a music video. So our initial idea, we wanted to make an app where we could click a button and donate money to charity. So we wanted to do something socially conscious. We settled on bees. We thought bees are declining, bees are important. We wanted to raise awareness of the plight of bees. Bees are also really cute and they're very punnable. So creating humor around our project was very important. So we came up with Be Happy. So our goals in this app were to engage users with the problem of declining bees, to educate them. We wanted to link people to charities and show them how they could help bee charities. And we wanted to make a mobile app. We wanted to stretch ourselves, build a new technology. On to Jess.
Thank you, Paula. So on the first stage of the project, after defining the problem we wanted to solve, we needed to nail down the specifics. Our priority was getting a clear MVP, or the minimal viable product we wanted to achieve. Building a mobile app was central to the idea and was the main point of our MVP. We also knew that we wanted something interactive and easy to use that could grab the attention of users in our attempt to raise awareness of bees. It became apparent the more we discussed the problem we wanted to solve that having the user engaging with bees in some form was the second point of the MVP. That could be by taking photos, geotagging. We had lots of ideas, probably too many ideas to start with, but we simply realized we wanted some kind of interactive bee counter. With a bee counter, a mobile app, we also needed to bring in our charity element, and that would be through having just simple links to charities at this point. So onto technology. With the mobile app in mind, we needed to do research on how we would have an interactive app with links to bee-related charities. So building a mobile app is something that none of us have any experience with, which was really fun. Quite a roller coaster of learning new things and struggles, and a great journey along the way. We researched multiple technologies and realized at this point with our MVP, we hadn't solidified if it was going to be iOS or Android compatible. So we thought we'll leave that open, and React Native opened that door for us. React Native is the main framework we worked with. It came with a solid testing framework, which was Jest. We also used Enzyme as a testing framework. And here is a list of things that we already knew going into this. So here's a list of things we didn't know going into this, which is the main bulk of the project. We built a backend API with Rails, which we felt quite familiar with our experience already, but the rest of it was a complete new experience. But we did this because we're makers, we're knowledge workers, we love the challenge, and we had a really great time along the way.
Hi, yeah, I'm here to talk about some of the struggles that we experienced, of which there were many. As you can see, this is a list, and this is some of the things that we came up against that were real big hurdles. So Jess already introduced React Native, and that's the framework that we built everything in. And yeah, the problem with that was that it was such a new technology. I think it's only been around for a few years, that actually just trying to get documentation when you hit a problem was really difficult. Another problem that we had was we came across something that sounded great, which was being able to just create a project that we could use another bit of software and we could get it live on our phones and look at it that way. And yeah, very quickly became apparent that that wasn't going to work. Testing was also another bugbear that was very difficult and it almost went out the window, but we tried to persevere. Geolocation took almost up until our very last day of coding to actually solve. And then there were numerous other things that I had personally, such as not being able to use my virtual machine, having to try and install loads of different things and then nothing working. And it wasn't until the second week that I actually felt like I could properly contribute. And then last on the list is object-oriented programming versus functional programming. But that was a particularly difficult thing. So on the next slide, you'll see that at Makers, prior to this, we'd actually been learning object-oriented programming. And then the moment we started doing this, it kind of all went out the window. In object-oriented programming, you kind of have everything kind of set out quite clearly. You create a class, and then you create an instance of that class, so you're not changing anything with the actual kind of God class, or parent class, sorry. And then if you want to, you can just do the class.function, and you get your little b, or you can do class.bname, and then you get your b's name. When it comes to functional programming, however, it's kind of a whole new ballgame. You can define classes, and you can sometimes instantiate them, but you don't always do that. And sometimes you kind of have to set the state to actually be able to access any variables. And you kind of can sometimes call a function or a variable, but not always. And then it wasn't until about Wednesday, literally the day we were supposed to finish coding, Wednesday morning, that it started to make sense to me personally. When I came across the fact that in functional programming, you have things called child classes, you can even have grandchild classes and parent classes. And if you want to get a bit of information from one child class to another, you can't just pass them directly. You have to actually send it to the parent class first, which then is going to send it back down to the other child class that you want to get that bit of information for. Successes now.
So we had some fantastic successes on this project. One of the main ones was down to XP values, which Dan already talked about. So that's simplicity, communication, feedback, respect, and courage. Feedback was a big one. After the first week, we were all kind of discouraged because we felt like we've been banging our heads against a wall. We had an MVP, but it wasn't pretty. And we were a bit discouraged, but we'd also stuffed so much new knowledge into our heads. So we were able to encourage each other to say, hey, we've actually done quite a lot of good work this week. Let's communicate that. Let's figure out ways that we can work better. And next week, we'll just go into this with a whole fresh mindset. The other really important thing, more B puns. Always important to have fun when programming. So we have pretty much every name on our screen is a pun. The poor other people in our cohort have been listening to our B puns all week. So thank you for being patient. But those are our successes, and passing it over now.
Thank you for being patient, that is. So without further ado, here's the app you've all been waiting for. Several features. The first one is a geotagging bee spotting feature. If you click the bee, it submits a bee to our server on an API. Click the map, you get a list of all of the bees that have been tagged across the globe, and it should zoom on your current location, showing you nearby bees that have been spotted. Another feature on the bottom left is in flower is a bee fact generator. This also randomly pulls down from a list of facts produced by our API, so you can generally find out something new about bee every time you use the app, which is about the raising awareness. And then here on the honeypot, we've got another bunch of buttons that look like fruits, but they're all actually links to charity websites where you can actually find out how you can, I don't know, live a more bee-friendly life, where you can donate money to particular bee-related things. Oxfam, I think you can buy bees. We haven't. We were gonna. One of the plans was to contact some of these charities. We never got around to it, but I hope they don't mind the free publicity. And yeah, and just on behalf of my whole group and probably everybody in the cohort, thank you all. It's been amazing. Dan, really good. All the makers, it's been excellent. It's been amazing.
Amazing. Thank you very much. That was Be Happy. And with that, that brings us rather neatly to the end of our presentations. Congratulations, makers! You are now fully fledged junior developers. Course is complete. You can leave your bedrooms now, although some of you already have. I see from the presentation from the cafe. I'm sure that music was planned because it was coming across just perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been wonderful, and I'm looking forward to ringing the gong. If you are interested in hiring any of these wonderful people, get in touch, makersacademy.com. If you are interested in learning to code, get in touch, makersacademy.com. This is me signing out. Thank you very much, everyone. Congratulations. Bye-bye.